Welcome, everyone. My name is Adel Strauss, and I'm here with Brian Wheeler. We are excited to kick off Tech Pulse today. Tech Pulse comes from our Integris Inspire events that we have been doing this year across the country. This is the virtual event for that. So we're covering some content today around Copilot and AI that we've been covering at our Integris Inspire events. If you go to our website, integrisit.com, and go to /TechPulse, you will be able to see additional virtual events that we have and some on-demand material too, so that Integris Inspire, you can watch from your computer. So we're glad to have you all here today, and we're going to get started. Today we're going to be covering Copilot, specifically Microsoft Copilot for 365 and the AI productivity revolution. I have Brian Wheeler here with me as well. Brian, you want to take a moment to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Brian Wheeler. I am the StratOps manager, the strategic operations manager for here at Integris. I lead the team of VCIOs and fractional CIOs that come out and meet with folks to match their digital needs with whatever technology we can do. So we're looking forward to this.
Welcome. And I'm Adele Strauss. I'm the VP of Product and Portfolio, and we are exploring what it looks like to work with Copilot as a company and how can we help our businesses use Copilot. So to get started, we're going to have some polls throughout this presentation today, so we can get an idea of who you are, what you're interested in learning. This will also feed additional webinars that we offer, so please participate. It's called a VVox session. If you use the QR code or go to vvox-.app and enter that session ID, it will take you to a homepage. That homepage has a bunch of helpful resources to get you started. And then it also will have poll questions that will pop up that you can answer. And we will get that information on our screen here. Super cool. So I'm going to leave this up for a minute and let you all get in there and register on that. So, Brian, what are you looking forward to today?
I will tell you that Copilot for 365 is a really awesome little tool, and I'm looking forward to talking about all the neat little additive things that it can do as far as the drafting or the summary or just the how it's made my life so much easier. So now don't have to stay fully engaged on chat lines with other groups. I can just wait for the summary at the end, which is awesome. So I'm looking forward to showing that off instead of scrolling through 80 to 100 lines of chat that really doesn't help. And it's like I need those 7 pieces. So I'm looking forward to showing everybody that piece.
Yeah, I agree. That is a huge time saver.
Yeah, yeah. That and the Excel piece where it actually highlights items to your data. It'll analyze it for you and show you what you could think of or what you should consider in the data sets. That's pretty cool too. Which for me in StratOps, when I'm doing a lot of different digital transformation studies and I'm looking at different pieces for our clients, I look at dollar cost averaging and I go, oh, that's a new concept, new idea, holding dollars back this year to achieve, further. It's actually kind of cool. So
Yeah, very interesting. I'm noticing that folks are joining, so I'm just gonna reintroduce this again. This QR code goes to a homepage for this webinar session that has a bunch of helpful resources, and it will also have poll questions. Carl, I'm wondering if we can drop this information in the chat so that people can join even after we move past this slide. Be great. I'm going to move on. Thanks everybody for joining, and we're going to get started. So here's our agenda for today. We're first going to start out with some basic definitions of what is AI. I think it's a really important. Brian, as our resident expert, is going to dive into that so that we all understand it's not just a buzzword, it's not just marketing. There's some real meat to what AI can do for your business. We'll talk about it specifically in the workforce and how your departments can utilize AI to make a difference for their teams. And then we'll dive into more of the risks and dangers that you need to be aware of, the security and compliance management that you need to take into account. Because with any new technology, And awesome opportunity also comes great risk and responsibility. So that we want to make sure that we also communicate that as part of this. And then we'll have an assessment to talk about with you guys too. So let's get into it.
So I love this slide because it's one of those things that the world is changing. It's one of those things that you actually think about, though, and AI is going to be utility that we use in most businesses or operations in the very near future, and it's going to be a driver for not just economic growth, but just overall creativity improvement as you start to see your people and your resources, your staff, your co-founders start using AI.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that when you see how AI has been adopted into the market, as far as from a user base, it's crazy to me. And I think we actually have the first poll to see if we can get people into that, to ask that very question.
So how long do you believe it will take or has taken ChatGPT to reach 100 million users? I think, Brian, I think it's been super fast. I don't know about you, but if my kids have figured it out already, then
Yeah,
it's
yeah. My three boys already have their own account on GPT just so they can enhance their learning at school, if you will.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's a thing.
Okay,
Okay.
it looks like we got some good results in here. Let's see who is right.
3 months, 7 months. That's,
Wow. So I think
yeah.
either some of you have seen this deck before, or so yes, 3 months is the right answer. It just to give some perspective here, I think this graph really gives some good perspective of how quickly Chat GPT and generative AI has been adopted in the market. So mobile phones took 16 years to get to 100 million users. Internet took 7, and Facebook took 4.5 years. Chat GPT took 3 months. So that just shows the in crazy, penetration across the market of this tool and the possibilities of how it's going to affect us personally, but also affect our businesses. So Brian's going to get into some of the different types of AI that's used in business and try to demystify some of these terms that we hear thrown around, so that you guys have some context.
It's important that when we get into these topics about AI or about any new technology, we first have a vocabulary conversation and a diction conversation. So the words we use and what they mean. So AI, just in general, encompasses a lot of different pieces when it comes to technology, especially in machine learning, deep learning, and then NLP, which is natural learning processes. What we're hyper focused on right now is just AI in general. And you can see that NLP really goes after more of the chatbots and the virtual assistants versus like RPA or robotic process automation is more about enhancing active processes within a workflow or business flow, maybe document processing, data extraction. So if you've ever scanned an invoice into QuickBooks and you've noticed that the QuickBooks automatically registers where that needs to go, if you ever used a receipt filer on a scanning system, it's the same basic principle. All of that's based off of some machine learning that goes into the actual LLM, which is the large language models that are most of this is all built off of. What's neat about all this, and I think we can kind of show it on the next one, is that there is actually a little bit of a parity between the two markets. So although it's all encompassed within artificial intelligence, you really have this duality or this kind of shift, if you will, either left or right, where RPA is mainly more about automation, and then you have artificial intelligence, which is the machine learning, the cognitive compute, and then when it connects together, you have some of that intelligent automation, and that's where you start seeing the really cool Microsoft 365 Copilot, or you see the Microsoft Copilot for Azure Studio, and those pieces that kind of come in. And so it's important for us when we get into this, though, we understand we're talking about this big, huge
Yeah.
wrapper, if you will, marketing jumbo, lingua, if you want. But it really starts going into what it is. On the next piece, you see that there is a little bit of a difference between AI and automation, where automation deals more with the workflow of your business and how things interact within the flow. So if it's picked up here and moved over here or scanned to this folder or in the sales funnel operation versus AI is could be more along the line of the actual technology that we use to interpret that information. And it's one of those things that as we start to develop this market further in the next 3 or 4 years, you'll start to see some really cool things come out of that. But today, we're just talking about Microsoft for Copilot
Yes.
365, which is just about the apps. And I think our next piece kind of talks a little bit more about that.
So Microsoft 365 and Copilot is obviously a huge development in your workforce and how you manage that. And we've got a cool marketing video because Microsoft loves that kind of stuff to show you. Oops. If I can figure it out. So that's a really exciting and a great marketing video. But we're interested first in learning about what are some of your goals for using AI, specifically with Microsoft 365 and Copilot. So if you could take a moment and enter, this is going to create a word cloud. So if you want to take a moment and drop some words in there of what you're excited about using it for. We obviously, there's lots of marketing around AI, and that video also shows that. So today we're going to actually dive into what can it actually do, what does it look like in Word, PowerPoint, Excel. How does Microsoft Copilot actually make a difference instead of it just being the marketing around it?
It is a great little video. It gets you pumping and everything. I actually like it because it shows off a lot of different features. The co-drafting, the initial drafting pieces shows how the PowerPoint functions work really well, and it gets kind of those obviously those juices moving. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So we'll give people some time to wrap up what their goals are for AI, and we'll see what we can do.
Okay, let's see what everybody's got here. There we go. Nope. There we go. It's a little hard to see there, but automation is the biggest one. Summaries, save time, increase productivity. A lot of great stuff there. Efficiency is said several different ways. I think we're going to be able to show you some very practical ways that you can create efficiency in your business for yourself and for your employees. So what efficiency is this going to create for businesses? We are really operating now, especially with remote work and how everyone operates on Teams and emails, meetings. We are spending a lot of time in digital debt, and it's costing us our innovation as businesses. 64% of employees don't have enough time or energy to actually do the work that you want them to do, and instead they're spending time communicating and scheduling and coordinating and reading emails, and not actually spending time doing the real work that will innovate for your business and make a difference and move your business forward. And that's where AI is going to really make a difference. Microsoft Copilot has helped to bring together a bunch of different ways that your employees can save time on those basic tasks like meetings and communicating and emails.
You know what's crazy about this is when you look on that right hand side, you see that 9 out of 10 people basically would be disappointed that they
Yeah.
no longer had access to Copilot, and that 8 out of 10, or more than three out of four people, would not want to go back to working without Copilot. And if you think about that slide we saw before, where over half of our time is spent on communicating what we're doing instead of doing what we're hired to do, you can start to see that the last point where it's 50%, just less than 50%, would influence their choice of employment if they had access to Copilot in the future, which tells me Copilot is now going to be an integrator, if you will, or accelerator to somebody's productivity.
Yeah. Yeah. And a baseline expectation, especially for younger employees when you're bringing them on board.
Yep.
And at the root of this, 87% of organizations believe that AI will give them a competitive edge. The key here is, though, that is actually implementing that AI and making sure that you're doing it in a way that's responsible. So it's one thing to just go turn it on and give your employees, say that they can go use something like ChatGPT to help them save time, and it's a whole nother to have it actually integrated into your business in a secure way where it can be used responsibly and make a difference for your employees. So we're going to break it down based on department. So if everybody could take a quick second and let us know which department you are in. I'm going to talk today specifically about marketing because that's where I have grown up in the world and how AI can make a difference in marketing. And then we're also going to talk about just in general how you should be thinking about implementing something like Copilot in your business and looking at it from not just let me just go release the license, but what does it look like to do this in a strategic way that will actually get implemented and adopted by your employees. Give it just another minute here for folks to respond. Let's see. Where's everybody at? IT, the biggest
IT,
one.
IT folks, look at that, IT folks. Yes.
A good sprawl across everybody. So, a lot of what we're going to show today is going to focus on Copilot based on individual workflow. But where AI in general is going to make a huge difference for your business is when it can be implemented based on function too. Much larger picture. And these are just some of the departments and different ways that you can think about implementing AI by function and how it will improve their workflow. For example, if you're looking at HR, being able to help just write and communicate job descriptions, postings, evaluating resumes, all of that content, being able to process that faster. But that isn't just giving an employee a Copilot license and letting them go. That's testing it with your department and rolling it out and changing actual processes and how you work, how they flow together to make an actual real meaningful savings in time across your employees. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Brian?
Yeah, so since we have so many IT folks in here, I will tell you that the identify patterns in data and solve issues faster is
Yes.
awesome, because not only does Copilot assist you in your daily drafting of emails, correspondence, communication, those pieces, but you also have access to a really cool, intelligent agent that you can actually talk to and work through the challenges and issues that you're currently experiencing in your technology, experience, if you will. So if you are having errors or issues, Copilot can be sitting side saddle, if you will, helping IT or finance or even sales, for that matter, really kind of enhance their overall offering, which is really cool to me.
Yeah. So I'm going to touch a little bit more on the marketing to give a deeper dive on how you can start to think about AI in your department as a whole. And then this is something that you can dive in deeper with us or with your company of how possibly for your department it can make a difference. For marketing, there's a lot of content creation that goes on with marketing, right? There's a lot of writing, images, video, editing. This for Copilot for Word gets you past that blank slate. It helps you to change the tone, shorten things, summarize, so you can take raw content that you have and be able to clean it up much faster than having to just start from scratch or do the editing by yourself. Personalization and recommendations. This for what you present on your website or how you tailor your content or where you post your ads. All of that can be done with AI to help make it so that the content is more related to the audience that you're showing it to. You can get far more advanced with your A/B testing and being able to first off create the content for those all of those different tests, and then also being able to show that in a smart way, test it, gather the information, the data, and make better decisions. And competitive intelligence is a huge one because again, it's gathering all of that information out there for you and bringing it together in a way that you can easily digest it and understand without having to parse all of that information yourself.
What's kind of nice, and what I've talked about just in the IT side, is when you start looking at these bullet points of the different, whether it's meetings or analysis or the content creation, you can start to see that there's a summarization piece that comes in that pretty much runs across all of those workflows. Um, what I like to see is on effective meetings, you can actually have a summary of the meeting and identify next steps. You don't need a
Yes.
scribe sitting in on the meeting to
Yeah.
do those notes anymore. Now you have Copilot sitting there on a sidecar, taking notes, taking the to dos, taking the actions, and sending those pieces out. On the data analysis, you actually can have it instantly identifies those key insights that you might have that are pretty apparent to you or to others, but may not be to the next line of employees to help them upskill themselves. And then
Mhm.
obviously when it comes to the creation, just overall the initial draft of a document is sometimes the hardest part of creating the document. It's just getting from 0 to 1 and then polishing 1 to 2, rev 2, if you
Yep.
will, is really the important part. And obviously the email processing, I was gone for 5 days and I came back to over 140 different communication threads. And I asked Copilot, I said, review my last week of emails and
Mhm.
tell me my hottest, most important to dos that I needed to do. And it did. It gave me my 5 things, my 5 priorities, which should be one priority, but 5 priorities that I needed to do immediately. And then after I did those 5, then I could go back through the rest of the 140 messages and just review, just make sure, sort them out. Yeah, respond. Oh, it's already handled. Great. And Copilot was actually very effective in that, where after I got through all the 140, I was like, I really just needed Copilot summary, which was awesome.
And that's like, people ask about how accurate is it? Can you trust it? It's obviously going to take time to test it and go through and verify the results, but
Mm-hmm.
now that you've done that, the next time you go on vacation, you can trust Copilot to give you the information you need.
Yeah, and that's also an important call out too. Is that, hey, while everyone's watching these slides and going through, if you do have questions, drop them in the chat, and we do
Yes.
have a section at the end of this as well to review those questions and provide answers. So feel free, even if you think it's covered later, drop it in the chat. We will review and talk about it again.
So, how does Copilot work for 365? What makes it different than some of the other tools out there? And the piece that really sets it apart for Microsoft is the semantic index and the Microsoft graph. So, where if you're talking about Chat GPT, that's connected to everything out there on the internet. My Copilot for 365 is connected to everything within your Microsoft universe, and it is connected to everything that you, as your individual user, is connected to. And then on top of that, it puts the semantic index to be able to provide responses within the context of your work environment. So clients that you work with commonly, employees that you work with, frequently, the meetings that you're on, the names of the meetings that you're on, the people that are on those meetings. It provides the context needed so that when you ask a question of Copilot or pull a document and, want to reference it, it has that context already taken into account, and it's going to provide you a better response because of that. So it is specifically architected to make the most of your Microsoft 365 environment, and that's important for everybody to understand because it's not going to do everything. It's within a certain context and a certain set of data, but what it can do within that data is super powerful. So to get started with this, there's some a basic checklist, and we're going to talk about how we can help you implement this checklist with our assessment to make sure that you have got everything secure and locked down. First off, you want to empower your employees with secure AI-powered tools. That's the purpose of Copilot with 365 as opposed to ChatGPT or some other tools out there that may not have as structured and secure with your data. And then the second is standardizing on M365. So making sure that the way we're setting it up and that you're structuring your data is the same and it's standard across your business, and organizing that sensitive data so that it's protected and not leaked to employees who shouldn't have access to it. We're going to dive into that a little bit more in the second half of this presentation. But right now, we're going to look at what it looks like to actually use Copilot on the apps and how you can access it. So to get started, I'm sure some of you can relate to this screenshot. One of my team members mentioned that it literally gave them Adel looking at it. This is my calendar on any given day. And it's obviously impossible for me to attend all of those meetings, be able to take notes, to Brian's point, follow up, everything like that when you are going boom, 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 back to back. And that is where intelligent recap for Copilot makes a huge difference. Every meeting that you record and have the transcript on for, you are able to go back and listen. You can obviously listen to the recording. You can pull AI notes. So it has meeting notes, follow-up tasks. It calls out the individuals and the tasks that they have. And then it gives you the Copilot chat on the side where you can actually ask questions of the meeting to dive deeper into. So for example, a follow-up task, what is the feature enhancement that I'm supposed to do? And it can answer that question based on the transcript. And it will link to the reference in the transcript so that you can actually go read that portion and verify the results of what Copilot is saying.
One of the things I actually like about this, the recapping Copilot, is that occasionally I consume more time in a meeting than what I need to. And I like to actually review the recap and realize I did talk quite a bit, or hey, no, someone else did actually come in and support. So it wasn't just the Brian show that I was evangelizing to everybody. No, we actually had a collaborative. It actually went somewhere. And that's a little bit of my own personal pain, if you will, of oh man, I think I talked too much. I think I overspoke over people, and I get to see it in the recap where it's no, actually it was quite collaborative, came through, it's great. You're not that bad of a soul yet, so you're fine. So
it's great too that also, if we don't have a screenshot of it here, but if you're on a meeting, actually in a meeting with Copilot turned on, you zone out for 5 minutes and realize that you missed, or maybe you get pulled away, your dog is barking, something's happening. You come back, you can type, sum up the last 5 minutes, and it will give you the recap of what you missed. So it's not just the after effect, it's also what's actually happening in the meeting itself.
The real time. Yeah, that real time data is awesome because I've been in enough virtual meetings where I accidentally get focused on an email that came in and space the last 7 minutes of a critical conversation that I should not have spaced, but shiny object. So
yes, I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to look at what it can look like in Outlook. Got a video here for you guys. So, so it can help you summarize that long email chain that you've got. Every email chain that you open up, it gives the option at the top to summarize it, and provides the high level points. It'll call out the people, the action steps that need to be taken. That is the one of the hugest time savers, if you, especially when you come back from vacation. To Brian's point.
Or, or if you get added on as a CC or just as a forward over and they say see below, and you just start scrolling and you're really questioning your decision of showing up to work today, that button has saved a lot of sanity, if you will, when it comes to those emails. So not that anyone ever does that, but
Never.
there's a button now. Yeah.
And here's an example in Word for you guys. So with Copilot in Word, you can, a lot of the functionality that you're used to in ChatGPT, like summarizing it, changing the tone, shortening it, being able to actually, you can tie in another document, you can make a table from the data that you have. So you have a nice presentation of the information. Over
And
here is,
what's
go
cool
ahead.
about that is that just showed you what normally takes the normal person, um, 30 minutes of fighting or 40 minutes or an hour of fighting Word of inputting a table into a document so it looks
Yeah,
presentable. Like that's 30 minutes, 40 minutes of my time going, will you stop moving that word, like messing up my margins? They just did that in minutes of time.
yeah,
And that's awesome because like that's also frustration minutes too that I have to sit here and deal with that aspect, which is really cool.
yeah. You can also, using the sidebar that they showed there, ask questions of the document. So if you get handed a 25-page proposal that you need to review and you're not sure where to start, or you don't have the time to read it all, you can ask questions of it in order to pull out the information. You can ask for a general summary of it. And it will, again, show you the references of where it pulls the information. So you can go validate what you see, and make sure that's accurate. You can also reference, like, let's say that you are pulling together information from a bunch of different documents to create a new one. You can reference all of those other documents and it will pull that information in. And then you can work with the, summarizing it, changing it, reformatting it from there.
It's awesome. I like it.
And I think Excel is the coolest one, personally, because I am not an Excel guru. This little video is not going to give you too much, but there is so much that you can do with Excel, if you give it a clean table of data. I don't know how many of you spend time wrestling with making charts. This It can provide you with results in a nice, clean format. It can also call out key trends based on what it sees within the data that you're providing. It's going to show you a, a, a chart, a pivot table, a graph, all of the insights then that come from that. You can ask for additional insights to be able to see what Copilot thinks is important, and that can be super interesting because you yourself, I'm not a data analyst. I don't know what I'm looking at a lot of times. This can get that initial hump for folks, so they can start thinking about what's the information that I want to pull out of this.
And what's cool about that is that you think about in your own organization, you have people that are somewhat skilled in Excel or need to use the data in Excel in some fashion. And by having Copilot as a sidecar to that standard app, you now have upskilled, or in other words, you've given them access to a senior level
Yeah,
intelligence to be able to give them the skills they need that they may not know what they need to show or what they need to look at, but by asking Copilot or by interacting with Copilot in Excel, they can actually upskill themselves and have a better return or better value on what they look at in those spreadsheets. And I will tell you that for me, that has enhanced my Excel skills quite a bit just by allowing me to have some sort of artificial or just a virtual intelligence, if you will, sit next to it and say, here's what I'm trying to do. Will you tell me the formula that I need to use to get to that
Yeah.
final value? Because I want to take these cells, but I don't want to worry if these cells are not this. It does a little if then statements, all those pieces, all of that logic. It'll do it for you. Just tell it what you want it to do, and it'll spit out that nice little. It's not two
Yeah.
hours of Google Foo. It's 10
Yes.
minutes of Copilot, which is awesome.
Yeah. That the number of hours I've spent searching on Google for that formula and then not doing the formula correctly, and just the frustration that comes from that. This is
Yes.
uh, so powerful.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to show you PowerPoint. Now, as a marketing person and a designer, this one pains me a little, because sometimes the what it spits out is not, perfect. But this, you talk about having to make a PowerPoint presentation, that blank page syndrome, I think is probably even worse when you get to PowerPoint and you're like, I have to make this presentation. If you have any kind of Word document, notes, material, and you can feed it into the PowerPoint, Copilot can work wonders with that. If you think about it I like to talk about it from sales perspective. If you make your sales proposals the same way every time, they can put them into PowerPoint, and Copilot in PowerPoint, and be able to produce a clean presentation that they can share with the prospect, with the client, and be able to talk through that so easily.
I like the fact that it gets me from not having a presentation to at least having a frame of a presentation that I need to present to somebody. Um, Me creating an outline and then developing the outline takes me longer than just creating the slides. So if I have help on that piece, that gets me further developed into the actual presentation. And for Copilot to do the draft, even if the pictures are wonky or not looking the best or not to our standards or to our themes, I just literally got 14 slides that I now can enhance into 18 or 20 and or develop into my actual target audience that I want to look at. Um, but I did that all within a simple prompt, a request, create this, look at this document, create a PowerPoint. And to me, oh, it makes my life so much easier
Yeah.
now versus the entire day in the office hours of just like, all right, now I need to create a presentation for next week. What am I going to say?
Yep. Yeah, and often you know what you want to say, but creating that visual to go along
Well,
with
it's
it.
the storytelling. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
virtual world, that you have to do that.
Yeah.
Now, the key thing here, with one of the great things with Copilot for is that Microsoft does understand that it takes training. People need to understand how to use it. It's a different way of searching. It's an looking for answers. We're asking questions now, and putting in requests. It's not just looking for the next, like, top IT provider. We are actually looking for what are the top. Give me the top IT providers that do this in Wichita, Kansas, and it can answer that. So Copilot has what they're calling Copilot Lab to help you learn the prompts that you can do. For example, in Excel, how do I get that to that chart? What's the question I need to ask? What's the prompt I need to give? And this is developing all the time because Copilot is very new. So the prompts that you can ask are changing. Every time I log in, there's new features, and Copilot Lab is to help users understand what they can ask so they don't get frustrated and can actually use the tool. And it's just basic. It's built into your Teams, and you can also go to it from your Office login, and it gives you the different kinds of prompts that you can ask, and explore. What are some different ways that you can change it, update it so that then it makes sense for you? And it's just a great training tool for your users who may struggle more with changing their mindset of how they would use something like Copilot.
And that's really the cool part about Copilot Lab is that it's built into your overall 365 experience, anyways. And oftentimes, what happens when you offer or provide tools down to your frontline employees or just any employee in general, they always ask for training. We need trained. I don't know how to use this. This Copilot Lab shows them the basic skills, the intermediate skills, and the advanced skills if they want to develop it into how to leverage Copilot to get better in their own engagement, whatever the service engagement looks like. I will tell you that I've used Copilot Lab for myself just to enhance my prompting because I learned that I was working with this intelligent agent, if you will, and
Hmm.
I was the dumb one in the
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
when I asked it questions or I told it what I wanted to do and it didn't output what I wanted, I was like, oh, this is things. It's like, wait,
Yes.
Brian, it's not the problem. You're the problem. You need to figure out how to say the words in a statement, in a phrase, in a contextual obligation that or contextual prompt that when you give it back to the intelligence, it goes, oh, so when you say this, and this, you actually just want me to create all of it. Whereas
Right.
before, I was like, create me a sales presentation on, you know, home service companies. It's going to do a very generic one. If I say, hey, I want to create this, but also, consider it small, medium-sized business. Also consider the market seg. Also consider where the market location is, and I want it to only be, single ownership or co-ownership. It would really hyper focus that presentation into that market niche, if you will. And for me, using Copilot Lab made me realize that I'm the problem, which my wife would love to hear this recording now. I'm betting, so we'll not send this at all to her. We'll burn this to the internet.
Yeah, it is changing mindset. It's just another tool, and how do people learn how to use it? If you don't have that, then it's just going to be frustrating to you. Um, Thank you, Carl.
What a blessing
So
Carl is. I tell you.
so today, while we're talking about Copilot for 365 today, this kind of uh, technology and the way that Microsoft has implemented Copilot within their tools for you to be able to use right there at your fingertips, you're going to be seeing that across the board with a lot of your line of business applications. QuickBooks is talking about it. They've got, a bunch of different stats already about how they use AI and machine learning as part of their software. Um, and it's important to consider the risks and understand overall how AI works within your ecosystem of line of business applications, and making sure that you're not putting your company at risk. And we're going to dive into that a little bit more.
What's
Um,
cool about this QuickBooks thing is QuickBooks is sold to individual operators and then also is sold to middle market where it's used downline as well. And you
yeah.
see how many AI driven interactions there are on the top number, and you can see that they're using natural learning processes. What's crazy to me though is that the product leader came out and said that we are going to try to leverage AI and automation across the entire ecosystems of partners that they work with. So QuickBooks, just in general, is starting to look at this. And then if you think about Intuit, the TurboTax, and all the other pieces that they have as far as their brand offering, they're shifting their mindset to how do we better use AI in these customer driven interactions. And I'll tell you, the next 5 years of tech is going to be really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to completely change accounting for
Yeah.
businesses.
All right.
Um, so, with that, we're going to dive a little bit into the risks to be aware of and things that you need to take into consideration. Before we start that, what do you guys think are some potential risks with using AI for your information, for your business, even for you personally?
Adele, we've done a couple of these, and no one has ever brought up Sarah Connor as far as one of the risks with AI. And I'm normally I hold it to myself, but this time I'm bringing it up just to see if somebody offers it in the VVox version.
I don't know if we're going to get a lot of responses on this one.
That, that's okay.
It looks like it's coming through now.
Yeah.
I don't think people always think about too. What are the risks? That's what I've learned working with engineers. Like, I don't think about the risks. I just think about the exciting things. And then I
Hmm.
go talk to an engineer and they're like, well, here's all the things that could go wrong.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's a reason for the sticker, if you will, like the safety stickers. There's a reason why there's a safety sticker. And that was probably because of an engineer, probably because of a safety engineer. So
Yep. Yep. There we go. Um, Data depersonalization, over reliance on AI, interesting. Cybersecurity.
I see it.
Somebody wrote Sarah Connor. Somebody also wrote Terminator.
I see it.
Um,
Thank you. Thank you for that.
so yes, there's a lot of risks that come with AI. The good news is that Microsoft has developed principles around how they are going to manage AI in the Microsoft universe. And it's centered around fairness, reliability and safety, privacy and security, and inclusiveness, with a focus on transparency and accountability. They understand that they have your information, they have your data, and that it's their responsibility to make sure that it is protected and secure. So they are saying that your data is your data. It is protected within their AI principles. It is not being used to train an open AI foundation or any of the large language models. It is not being used to train for anybody else's data. It's protected by compliance and security controls that they have in place. And we're going to dive into those a little bit more in a minute. But first, we're going to talk about the legal implications.
So, what's great about AI is it's new and it's awesome, and there are no laws governing AI. That also means it's a bit of the Wild West. There are not a lot of rules associated with what should be in place to protect people and what should not be available to be used for AI. And what you'll see is that it's instead of having this carte blanche or more of a existing framework we need to fold people into. AI, just in general, is just wide open. Legislative branches of our government haven't caught up and won't catch up for a couple years. So we're probably 6 years away from any type of regulatory concern. There'll be an overreach and overdramatic thing that happens. But I think it's important to note that while your data is protected by Microsoft's core principles as far as the security of that, it is still your data and it is your responsibility that you
Yes.
have. And what this kind of walks through, I think on the next one as well, it talks through what you need to do in your personal business and in your own personal experience with AI and the acceptable use of AI. We have up here as far as submitting what you should and should not use, as far as the sources or the information that you use. Um, when you use public facing LLM tools, there are some concerns about some data leakages. You can also see that just having an overall clear definition of what the AI is,
Yep.
where the data lives within that AI experience, and then also what's communicated down, and having your people, your students, your clients, your customers, your employees all understand that this is what we do and this is how we use AI. This is what we do, and more importantly, when you're using AI, this is how it works. And Dylan just dropped in the chat the acceptable use policy that we have as far as a general policy that you can use as a boilerplate for those concerns.
Yeah, the key here is the education. At the end of the day, you can't control. There is no amount of cybersecurity tools that you can put in place to stop your employees from doing something that they shouldn't do with your information. And so, making sure that they are educated and that you've protected yourself.
So, talking about your data is your data on the Microsoft principle. There are some steps that we have to do, or a trusted IT provider has to do, to secure the information that you provide to Copilot. And on this slide, you can see a bunch of the different controls that you have, and the overall aspect that we do. And we have a readiness implementation guide that we also do as well. But you can see that there's terms of use. There's the restricting of saving of business data to where it's supposed to be saved only, making sure that user sessions are controlled. There's some sort of endpoint management as well. And then overall, just making sure that they're not using 400 different apps for AI for somebody to trip across going, oh, I overspilled. I think it was
Right.
Samsung last year that overshared their source code of the S22 or S23 phone operating system, and just overshared that into an LLM, and now it's there forever.
Mm.
So if Samsung can't get it right, just consider that we need to take these steps serious when we start looking at what can we do and what should we do on a compliance and a security posture to secure our data. Because remember, it is your data.
Yes. And in today's world, that's the most valuable thing that we have as
Yeah.
businesses.
Well, it's your digital estate. That's really what it is.
Yeah. So there are some steps that you can take in preparing for AI, and then as an extension of that, using Copilot. Overall, you don't want to just launch AI in your business, even launch Copilot just for the sake of launching it, because it's a new shiny object. You want to make sure that it aligns with your organization's goals, defining what you think you can be using AI for. How can it solve some of the pain points for your business? What are those pain points? And then talking about what AI can do to address them. What are being realistic about the current capabilities of your business and where they're at with where your employees are at with AI. What's your technology built? How is your technology built? How is your data organized to be able to actually leverage the capabilities that can come with something like Copilot? Do you have a data strategy? Do you understand where you're saving your data and how it's structured to be able to make the most of it? And then do you have the infrastructure to support that together? So it's not just it's not just a go turn on the license and set it out there. There needs to be a thought and intention to how you set this up. So this is just the beginning of our journey with Copilot, and we would love to hear what you guys would like to learn more about for future webinars. Whether you answer here or you drop it in the chat or you let us know, over email in response to this, the happiness survey on the app. Let us know what else you would like to learn about, so that we can bring more great content to continue this journey. I'm going to ask you a question here, Brian, because we are running tight on time.
Yeah.
We've got one person who's asked about using Copilot with OneNote. Have you used Copilot with OneNote?
Yes, I have. So
Okay.
I had to do a 5-day assessment where I went out and did point in time interviews with with cohorts of people in a service delivery for this client that we have.
Yep.
And I took all the interviews and I dumped it into, as they were talking, I wrote it into OneNote, and I had pages on pages and pages and pages of notes. And what I did is I used Copilot and I said, summarize my notes. And what would have taken me 2 days just to allocate and move and all those pieces, I was then able to get a summary. I was able to get a sentiment. I was able to get key indicators. I mean, granted, it was my words versus just their words that they had said. So it goes back to I'm the problem, if you will. But I was able to pull out key indications from the data that I had created in OneNote that wouldn't have had before. What's also great is that when you have it on your workspace in OneNote, you can go across all of the pages or all the different pieces within that workspace. So if you have multiple pages, multiple groups,
Really?
you can ask Copilot, like, hey, I'm looking for this. I can't remember what OneNote page I put this on. It'll find it for you, which is so much easier than the click monster that you become. Like, it's not this one,
Yes.
not this one, not this one. So it's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it looks like best practices for implementation, which that's great because I think we've got an answer for that to help you at least get started. So Brian, you want to talk a little bit about the assessment?
Yeah, so we partnered with Microsoft to develop a Copilot for 365 readiness assessment and implementation. What's awesome about this is that it'll take care of the controls that you have to worry about with the security posture, and then also the data controls that you might need to worry about, the SharePoint controls that you need to worry about, the data labeling, all those pieces that historically most folks have not looked at. This is now the unearthing that rock and going at where is my data, who has access to it, why do they have access to it. One example I go back to is that there was a group that I worked with that had the seventh member of their staff was still part of the organization, and he was now the warehouse manager. And there's now over 200 people. And as you know, when somebody's in a warehouse, they typically are removed from admin or finance or sales or
Yes.
marketing. But that person was still tied into one of those groups that has access to sales or to sales presentations, to sales transactions, to all the extra meat that you would when you were a small business. But over time, that person grew with the organization, but their permission stayed the same. So they didn't know that John had access to payroll. They didn't know that John had access to Christmas bonuses. Now, John was a trusted person, so it wasn't a big deal. But insert somebody else into that category, and that could have been a very different challenge for them. And when we made the changes to remove John from that data set, he didn't even know because he didn't
No.
care. He didn't look because he was focused on doing his delivery, which is warehouse management, and he was great at that job. So there's kind of those things to think about is when you start getting into it is like, yeah, you really need to start looking at where is your data, who has access, all those pieces, and we have an assessment and implementation that'll just take care of all that.
Yeah, it's honestly it's a great exercise to go through just in general to to clean up your Microsoft, right? And help make sure that you're setting it up in a way that is secure and up to date.
Mhm.
Because we do tend to forget about that employee who made a change.
Yeah.
So, if you are interested in using Microsoft Copilot, if you already have Microsoft Copilot for some of your users, we would highly recommend that you talk with your VCIO, your account manager, about getting an assessment done. So, we'll have someone from Integris work with you on that. Also, we would recommend talking with your VCIO in general about how you may want to implement Copilot so that they can help you walk through that process and make sure that you're doing it in a way that is following best practices. And I don't think there's any other questions for us today. So we're going to wrap it up. If
Before
you,
we go,
yes,
YouTube.
yes, YouTube. I was going to say it. Thank you. If you are interested in more conversations like this, we do YouTube Lives on Friday, Buffalo Plaid Breakfast. Check it out. There's also this content. Lots of our other webinars are going to be up there. We have a lot of great content on Microsoft to help your end users understand how to use Microsoft, to help you, and lots of other super helpful security conversations to help guide your business. So go follow us on YouTube for all the cool stuff we've got going on. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day.